Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. It is my pleasure and absolute delight to be serving as the chair of ICD 2024 and your hostess for this afternoon. First order of business, though, is the invocation in which we acknowledge the presence of our Heavenly Father, which will be done by none other than Reverend Astor Carlisle. Reverend Astor Carlisle is the senior pastor of Webster Memorial United Church in Jamaica. Noted for the faithful care of his parishioners, he has a gift in communicating the gospel of Christ with creativity and clarity. As such, he has been widely engaged in the programs of the Council for World Mission in countries such as England, Wales, and other parts of the world. In 2022, his contribution to nation building was recognized by the government of Jamaica. He was awarded the national honor of the Order of Distinction in the rank of Commander Class for his service to the field of religion and community development. Welcome, Reverend Astor Carlisle.
Thank you, Nsambi. Let us pray. Eternal God, creator and sustainer of all life, how excellent is your name in all the earth. When we consider your blessings that run to meet us every day, we are in awe. Great are you, and worthy of all praise. The vastness of the oceans point to the breadth of your love. The mountains rise in their strength as testimonials of the height of your grace. The lush landscapes of our world point to your unending mercy and unfailing kindness. As we meet for this conference, we pray for your guidance in all that is said and done. Bless all our presenters and fill our minds with your light of insight and inspiration, that we may rise to protect, preserve, enhance, and enrich our fragile ecosystems, lives, lands, and oceans for the generations to come. Since we can do nothing well without you, hallow our gathering with your divine presence, and grant that all that we do in our living and our giving, your kingdom will come, and your will indeed be done on earth as it is in heaven. We pray for Christ's sake. Amen.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much, Reverend Carlisle. It's so great to have you starting our conference today. Oh my goodness. Today, Norma sent out a message to say the day has finally arrived. This conference is a culmination of months of planning with some very faithful members of our planning team. And I'm so happy and so delighted to be welcoming all of you who have come in from so many different parts of the world. We made this open to as far and wide as possible, and we are very, very, very happy to have you. Last year, for those of you who were not here, you would have seen that our focus was on the orange economy. It is only understandable that this year we will focus on the blue and green economy. And what is interesting is we see divine alignment because this conference is coming on the heels of the recently concluded SIDS conference, where we had participation from the Caribbean, Singapore, Pacific countries, and other small island developing states. We had some amazing people who are playing in so many different areas. So for this 2024 conference, we would like to take a futuristic approach to the theme, exploring new frontiers, consulting opportunities in the blue and green economies. We really want to take a futuristic and positive approach because focusing only on the problems will never really take us to where we need to go. So what we need to do is to blueprint the vision of the future state that we want to achieve and map out a strategy and a path to that future state that will bring about the transformation we all desire. Consultants are well positioned to help our region to achieve the desired future state through collaboration, a theme that we have been pushing for the last 2 years. For this conference, we have lined up some of the finest minds and some of the finest players in the space. So I'm going to ask you to fasten your seatbelts, get comfortable as we take you on an ICD 2024 ride into new frontiers. Now, to set the context, we will be showing the video Caribbean 2040, produced by the IDB under the leadership of one of our great visionaries, Therese Turner Jones. While this was produced 6 years ago, many of us might not have engaged with it. We thought it fitting to start our discussions on the blue-green economy with this video as the backdrop. So here it is. I'm asking you, I'm asking you all to take a positive view and to drown out the noise of our personal biases of the Caribbean leaders portrayed in the video. Remember, this was done 6 years ago, projecting into 2040. And it said it started back when. And so it portrayed a number of our Caribbean leaders. Listen to their message and be inspired by them. The video ends with a charge to all of us, regardless of location, nationality, and vocation. The video asks for a tectonic shift in mindset for us to take quantum leaps to create the future we desire and leave a rich and sustainable legacy for the next generations. Caribbean 2040 video presentation.
(2040). This is our Caribbean, the world's first climate smart zone, a collection of economies that thrive on renewable energy and technological innovations to confront the effects of climate change and create spaces for its people to be safe, productive, and happy. We are proud to be economies that are at one with our planet while taking advantage of the fourth industrial revolution. In Caribbean 2040, policies are anchored in a sound institutional framework that allows citizens to move freely, experience an improved rule of law, and give expression to their creativity and talents. In Jamaica, economic stability is the norm. Productivity has grown so much that the GDP per capita has increased by 250% since 2018. Innovation is the norm. Tech-savvy youth are everywhere, and the orange economy is world famous. In the Bahamas, climate change risks are better confronted through strong adaptation for the 700 plus islands in the archipelago. More than 40% of the nation's coastlines have been reinforced to prevent erosion, creating numerous specialized jobs focused on climate adaptation, infrastructure, and resilience. The unemployment rate is less than 2%. Educated national youth strive to be innovative entrepreneurs, valuing stronger family units. Because of this, crime is at an all-time low. In Barbados, innovative battery storage technologies have transformed the landscape. Public transportation is powered through solar energy. 80% of the island's energy is created from renewable sources, creating thousands of jobs while reducing energy spending. LED streetlights illuminate highways and communities at night, saving millions of dollars each year for the government, business, and consumers. In Guyana, as one of the hemisphere's leading oil and gas producers, Guyana is able to export 90% of its fuel production while utilizing safe and environmentally friendly methods. Guyana's energy and forest wealth has been carefully managed, ensuring smart investments on behalf of its citizens. Supported by a robust broadband infrastructure, citizens' interactions with the government are conducted online in a more effective, efficient, and transparent way. Wi-Fi services are free for all, and roaming charges no longer exist. In Suriname, government spending is highly effective and efficient, thanks to the introduction of the Economic Stabilization Program, birthed from its own people. Also, modern farming methods, to include water-resistant seeds, have increased food production yields, making Suriname a significant global food source. In Trinidad and Tobago, now one of the world's leading technology hubs, it's home to more than 300 private sector businesses that have prospered with the development and application of innovative technologies in energy, IT, and business services. A major regional export is advisory services based on music, cuisine, sports, and fashion, with creative icons demonstrating how to effectively extract revenue from intellectual property. The nation is still world famous for organic chocolate and specialized branded liqueurs. And it all started here.
The naked truth is that for a small hydrocarbon-based economy like Trinidad and Tobago, fiscal adjustment and economic diversification are no longer just options. They are essential requirements for long-term growth and stability, and I dare say survival.
As small island developing states are at great risk of climate change, we must develop new mindsets and protocols in this era of superstorms.
We have made a commitment to the prosperity of Jamaicans, and we are going to do that through economic growth and job creation.
Geven is voor de regering geen optie. We hebben als volk en land een veelheid aan potenties.
We're a state that is proud of its place as a reliable and cooperative partner in the international efforts to protect the Earth's environment.
The government's vision is now one of Barbados becoming a 100% renewable energy island within the next 50 years.
Change is coming to our Caribbean. The choices we make today will be the history for tomorrow. We must write the future now. 2040, here we come. To get there, we must jump. Jump, Caribbean.
Jump Caribbean, what a vision. And my Bible says with God, all things are possible when we believe. And as thought leaders in this region, we know that we can make it happen. We just need to catch the vision, see the vision, shift the mindset, and make quantum leaps. I want to be alive in 2040 to experience all of these wonderful things that are happening in the Caribbean. Now, we are very, very grateful to have sharing with us from the International Council of Management Consulting Institutes, greeting from its chair, Robert Bodenstein.
Hello, my name is Robert Bodenstein. I am chair of ICMCI. Thank you for celebrating International Consultants Day and say a few words to you as the management consulting community in the Caribbean. Although management consulting is a very young profession, it is an important part of the economy. ICMCI's National Consulting Index, which is published today on the International Consulting Day, proves that management consulting services are one of the pillars in developed economies. Especially in times like this with artificial intelligence and sustainability, management consultants contribute significantly to transform these megatrends into business. That requires specific know-how, but also understanding the client's business. Who else but management consultants should do that? And this is we, as ICMCI, publish our first white paper on artificial intelligence today on the International Consultants Day. And in October, our annual conference will have the topic sustainability. Talking about sustainability. Sustainability is a generic term, often used with regards to environment, sometimes also used with regards to social. In the definition of the United Nations, sustainability covers 3 dimensions: environment, social, and economy. It's the economy stupid, as coined by James Carville in 1992. Without the creativity and the innovating power of the economy, sustainability will stay a brain game, hidden behind show effects and short-sighted activities. There's a huge variety of concepts that addresses sustainability, from planting trees to the SDGs. What does it mean for management consultants to deliver projects with regards to sustainability? First, there is no best concept. The quality of a concept is determined by the client's needs. Second, like in every consulting project, the definition of the scope is critical to the entire project. This scope is encompassed by, we are still talking about business. The purpose of a business entity is to make profit and invest based on its strategy. Sustainable behavior is a personal opinion and/or a political declaration. Stakeholders will have a different understanding of what is good and bad. To behave in a sustainable manner as a business entity, there must be a link to the strategy of the organization. The conditions for sustainable behavior are changing rapidly. What is good today might be bad tomorrow, or vice versa. Technology, environmental conditions, economic conditions might change over the night. The specific blue-green economy concept addressed in your conference is a concept that integrates the principles of the blue economy and the green economy, aiming to foster sustainable development while balancing environmental conservation and economic growth. And this is where management consultants come in. So what do we as management consultants deliver? Why are we the one who transform these megatrends into business? Here are some guests from my side. We bring structure and guidance in a very complex development. We need to guide and lead the strategic process. Second, we have a holistic approach by considering stakeholders' views, business backgrounds, operational conditions, and environmental conservation. We uncover the creativity and the innovating power of business by thinking beyond daily business. Customers, employees, and suppliers are ready for new business models and new products. You have a tight schedule today, so let me conclude. Thank you, Caribbean Institute of Management Consulting, and thank you, Norma, for your support to ICMCI. Thank you for celebrating the International Consultants Day, and thank you for choosing this conference topic. Happy International Consultants Day.
And happy International Consultants Day to you, Mr. Bodenstein, and all of those of you who are at the Euro Hub celebrating the conference today. Welcome to those of you who have come on since we began. I see you introducing yourselves in the chat, and for that we are very grateful. We have curated a really wonderful agenda for you today, and we are looking forward to some great interactions from you. At this point, I will be calling on our esteemed president of CIMC, Norma Shorey, to address us. Norma serves as the president of CIMC, and she also serves on the board of CMC Global, ICMCI. She's a certified management consultant with over 35 years experience working with individuals, governments, non-governmental, and community-based organizations. She also works with the private sector throughout the Caribbean and some international projects. Norma specializes in change leadership and organizational development, and she boasts an extensive track record in the design and implementation of organizational development interventions, including strategic planning, change facilitation, and building leadership and team capacity. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our esteemed president, Miss Norma Shorey.
Thank you very much, Nsombe. We really appreciate your gracious hosting of this ICD conference. And thank you, Robert, for your greeting. We know that you're in the EuroHub meeting, so you're far away. I am delighted to welcome you all today, members, colleagues, organizations around the Caribbean, and let me say across the globe. We are part, the CIMC is part of the International Council, which Robert spoke about. We are committed to building the management consulting profession, and our mission is to build capacity of members, create value for clients, and develop competitive advantages. And that is why the theme of this conference is so apt, so relevant to those times, because we need to make sure that our consultants are really aware of some of these issues so that we can develop, we can provide that value to clients. And in this way, this ICD conference is enhancing your skills, the skills and sensitivities of both the consultants and the clients, because we need to be more aware of these issues no matter our area of expertise. And somebody spoke of my area, which is related to change management and capacity building. Some of you are in marketing, ICT, digital transformation, finance. It doesn't matter. You need to be able to be sensitive to these issues so that you can work more effectively with your clients and help them to be more sustainable. And for the people who are representing the client agencies, you know that this is, even if your area, whatever your area of focus is, this is something that you need to take into considerations. Now, one of the things that we do at CIMC is to build the competencies, and I will speak about that later, in not only in management consulting field, and to help you better understand and appreciate the issues that face your organization. We work with a network of consultants, both individuals, members, colleagues, and organizations around the region. But what I would like to say is that no matter what our area of expertise is, we need to be able to incorporate some of these critical issues in the work that we are doing so that we can enable our organizations to work more sustainably. And somebody already mentioned some of the issues that came up at the SIDS conference recently, which really highlight the vulnerability of our small island states. So I thank you for joining us today. And we look forward to a stimulating and thought-provoking conference. and your participation, not only today in this conference, but in other activities that CIMC will keep informing you about. So blessings to you, and thank you very much for participating today.
Thanks, President Norma, for bringing your message to the team. And I hope they are fired up and ready to go to work on projects in the blue-green economy. Now, folks, you know, we could not do this without the support of partners and sponsors. And so as our title sponsor, the CDB, we are bringing greetings, and the greetings will be brought by Miss Alison Francis, who is project officer. Many of us know Alison from CEDA, the Sweet CEDA days. We interacted a lot with her then. She's an international trade specialist. So project officer does not even begin to speak to the quality of human being that Alison is. Alison is now representing CDB, and CDB is our title sponsor for this conference. And so we ask Alison to bring greetings on behalf of CDB, the Caribbean Development Bank.
Oh, well, good afternoon to you and Sombi, and good afternoon to all persons on the conference today. Do I say Happy International Consultants Day?
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So on behalf of the Caribbean Development Bank and the head of our private sector division, acting, Ms. Lisa Harding, greetings to everyone. Greetings to the Caribbean Institute of Management Consulting, its membership, and all the consultants and participants. It has been said by both Nsombi and Norma, but we know that the profession of management consulting is very dynamic. It cuts across many disciplines. Today, as we speak to consulting in the blue and the green economy, it underscores this dynamism, as it's not about being experts in the blue and the green economy, but the provision of quality consulting services to clients to facilitate our sustainable development, taking into consideration, of course, all the issues of the blue and the green economy. The issues of climate change negatively impact our region and must continue to be addressed as we seek to achieve our sustainable development goals. As a result of the pandemic, the Caribbean Development Bank has outlined an extensive development agenda for the region, framed around the need for borrower member countries or clients to achieve internal resilience with social, environmental, production, financial, and institutional aspects, all linked to achieving the sustainable development goals. The bank therefore embarked on an ambitious effort to mobilize resources from international multilateral partners as well as regional private sector. The goal therein to transform the private sector's role from beneficiary to development partners and to execute an agenda to boost sustainable growth in our borrowing member countries. And partnering with CIMC can assist in this. Towards our sustainable development goals for the private sector, the Caribbean Development Bank has done considerable work in collaboration with such entities as Complete Caribbean Partnership Facility, which we are members, to support the business climate reforms both on a national and regional basis in activities such as supporting enabling environment for the development of a blue economy, which focus on OECS, Trinidad, Belize, and Barbados. The private sector division through the CTS, which is our Caribbean Technology Consultancy Services, has also provided technical assistance interventions to support the blue economy over the last 3 to 5 years. And that includes such interventions for MSMEs within the tourism sector, projects such as Future Tourism, where we look at rethinking tourism and MSMEs in times of COVID-19. That project was designed in partnership with the United Nations Program, UNDP, Barbados and Eastern Caribbean, and assisted tourism-related MSMEs in digitizing their operations. Now, they received technical assistance, we did training in business adaptation program, and focusing on the digital technologies, financial planning, etc. As a result of the beneficiaries or MSMEs were able to digitize their business processes. And consequently, this business adaptation program was recognized on the Caribbean Tourism Organization's 2022 Sustainable Tourism Award, and awarded first place in the category of tourism, education, and training. Now, we continue to have other processes that we have continued on our CIMC TCS program, looking at the green economy, focus on the agricultural sector, such as projects undertaken in St. Lucia to address the vulnerable young males, agribusiness, mushroom production. This project is done in collaboration with St. Lucia's Ministry of Agriculture, and we build in the capacity of vulnerable young males to engender self-employment opportunities. Now, the cultural sector cannot be left out. We cannot exclude culture at all, notwithstanding the orange economy was discussed in our last session, but we also here have to look at the issue of sustainable development. And the culture and creative industries through our Cultural Creative Industries Innovative Fund is guided by operational pillars of innovation, collaboration, and sustainability. Now, through this framework, CIF has welcomed intersectional creative projects that speaks to different blue and green areas. Now, the cultural industries are also a space where engaging advocacy tools and models are produced through audiovisual products, visual arts, music. So we can use these tools in the creative sector to advocate on issues that we need to address in the blue and the green economy. We have done such projects as we call slow sustainable fashion models, which looked at reducing the impact of the manufacturing. So we talk about, fashion branded out of, looking at, in this case, a Mayan community in the southern Belize. So design and make small to order batches so we do not impact negatively. We've also done festivals and carnival project, which explored more sustainable costume construction materials through experimenting with LED light back designs. Now, CIF has encouraged project innovations moving towards adapting digital technologies and in part of processing, e-commerce, records management, and all other different platforms for trading, which can in of itself contribute towards reducing waste and carbon footprints. But importantly, I must say, CDB is one of the largest regional procurers of consulting services, either directly or through projects funded by the bank and administered and executed by several agencies. We estimate that about 70% of our implementation occurs in our borrower member country and our clients. Thus, it is necessary to strengthen the in-country systems on how our consultants execute the services they are contracted to undertake. And it must be given high priority to ensure that not just for the bank, but all our other development partners, as we seek to deliver resources more efficiently and help our borrower member countries to achieve the project development outcomes more effectively. Now, this falls directly in line with what we have been discussing with the CIMC. And it also complements the training that the bank has done with our procurement unit, where we speak of how you procure consultants and how you address the procurement. But beyond the procurement now is how they actually execute their services. So as we seek to ensure that the projects for which we provide funding are delivered within a schedule, within budget, and achieve the desired objective. The success of partnerships with CIMC is important. Now, it is also important for MSMEs or even for larger national enterprises who depend on technical skill of consultants and their competencies in the consulting process, to be able to execute and to achieve our objective. At a broader level, we do recognize the importance of management consulting services, which are critical to our national and regional development, especially supporting and enhancing our MSME sectors. This is very much consistent with our approach within the bank, looking at our CTCS strategic plan, or private sector development plan as well. So support of CIMC will benefit, we do believe strongly, the MSME sector at different levels, as many of the consultants are part of the MSME sector. So we have to look at it from that context as well. In addition, many of the consultants' clients are MSMEs who would therefore benefit directly from engaging with partnerships with the CIMC. Enhancing the skills of a cadre of Caribbean consultants would therefore ensure better results on consulting projects. It is from that perspective that the bank has partnered with the CIMC to execute a project enhancing the capacity and competitiveness of management consulting professionals in the Caribbean. This project will improve the delivery of management consulting services, leading to enhanced implementation and results of projects by increasing the capability and competitiveness of our Caribbean consultants to export the professional services regionally and internationally. We do believe that this project has much benefit. It will focus on training actions such as on the ISO 27000-2017 guidelines on standard and management consulting, as well as address training on the principles and practices of management consulting. These can only augur well to ensure effectiveness in the implementation and development of our projects. We also know the importance of discussing financing and therefore urge persons to continue to participate in this ICD session, as my colleague, Mr. Derek Gibbs, Climate Finance Specialist, will be discussing fostering sustainable development. CDB reaffirms its commitments to private sector development and wishes CIMC, all the participants here today, greater success in your project development and implementation for increased efficiency, effectiveness, for increased competitiveness, as programs are implemented and CICMC are strengthened through support and partnership with such organizations as ourselves. So thank you and have an excellent International Consultants Day today.
Thank you so much, Alison. You have journeyed with us from before we were able to walk to the point where we are able to run. Thank you so much for sharing with us the opportunities and the ways in which CDB has been supporting the Caribbean. Someone wrote in the chat, the support of CDB is astonishing. Ladies and gentlemen, we are at the point for the keynote presentation. And we were very, very, very careful in our selection of the keynote speaker. And I hope many of you were able to see the interview that was on LinkedIn with Dr. Fletcher. Dr. James Fletcher is a former minister of the Public Service, Sustainable Development, Energy, Science, and Technology in St. Lucia. And when I saw this, I said, how you want to manage such a big ministry? He said, actually, it was 2 ministries. He served in that position from December 2011 to June 2016. During his tenure, he led St. Lucia on an aggressive path towards the modernization of the energy sector with an emphasis on legislative reform and the use of renewable sources of energy. He oversaw efforts to improve the water sector, and he played a pivotal role in the thrust towards making information technology widely available across the island. Now, this man wears many hats. He is best known for his work in international climate change negotiations. He led the Caribbean's delegation to the negotiations on the Paris Agreement in 2015 and was an integral part of the region's 1.5 to Stay Alive climate change civil society advocacy campaign. He was chosen by the French president to join a select group of ministers with responsibility for achieving consensus on the more contentious elements of the UN Framework Convention on Climate Change and the elements of the Paris Agreement. Dr. Fletcher served as the Director of Social and Sustainable Development at the Secretariat of the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. He served as a cabinet secretary in the government of St. Lucia and as permanent secretary in the Ministry of Agriculture, Forestry, and Fisheries. He is the founder and CEO of Solaricon, one of the Caribbean's leading consulting firms in the blue-green economy space. So therefore, we could not have identified a more fitting keynote speaker to address us on this International Consultants Day. Dr. Fletcher, welcome.
Thank you very much, and happy International Consultants Day to everyone.
Thank you.
And thanks for inviting me to share with you some thoughts on what consulting in the blue and green economy looks like, at least from my vantage point. So without further ado, I will share my screen and So, consulting in the blue and green economy. I'm sure you've heard before, but our planet is facing what is called a triple planetary crisis. We have a problem with pollution. Unfortunately, I hate to say, but these are scenes from my own country. We seem to have a love affair with plastics, but when you have a love affair, you usually treat things well. We don't treat our plastics well after we've used them. We use them and we discard them, and we discard them anyway. And St. Lucia and many other Caribbean countries are guilty of this. We also have a problem with biodiversity loss, and we are seeing species becoming extinct. More and more, we're seeing many species being put on the danger list, headed for extinction. And of course, the one that we know very well is climate change. These are all headlines. I try to put together this collage of things, ripped from the headlines. So the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says that 2024 will be the most aggressive hurricane season ever, with as many as 23 named storms, 5 to 7 of them becoming hurricanes. We're in the middle of a coral bleaching event, the 4th global coral bleaching event. The South Pole is warming 3 times faster than the rest of the Earth. The North Pole is warming 4 times faster. The last 9 years are the hottest years on record. Land and sea surface temperatures have never been hotter. Our oceans are becoming more acidic because they're absorbing more carbon dioxide. It's just a horror story. July last year was the hottest month ever, and we've had a period of record-breaking heat. So every one of the last 11 months has set a record for that month. Fortunately, the planet has agreed, and the governments have agreed that something has to be done. So as you heard, yes, I was part of the team that helped craft and adopt the Paris Agreement in 2015 at Le Bourget in Paris, a historic, ambitious agreement to really try to halt the impacts of climate change and reverse the impacts of climate change. In 2022, 7 years later, countries got together at the 5th United Nations Environment Assembly and agreed to end plastic pollution by 2024, which is this year. So let's see how far they go with this one. I haven't seen enough evidence that that will actually happen, but at least there's a commitment. And in Montreal in 2022, December 2022, the Kunming-Montreal Global Biodiversity Framework put together an action plan to address the issue of the loss of biodiversity. So you could see in 3 major international agreements: the climate change one in 2015, the one to end plastic pollution in 2022, and the Global Biodiversity Framework. We've committed to do something about the triple planetary crisis that we're experiencing. Now, many things have been attributed to this gentleman, many statements, but this one he actually said, and he said, in the midst of every crisis lies great opportunity. And we, as I said, we are in the middle of a crisis. So what really is the opportunity? Well, all Caribbean countries have committed to decarbonizing their economies and to pursuing a greener development pathway. So that's one. We also in 2015 signed the 2030 Development Agenda with its 17 Sustainable Development Goals that really chart the path for development, a development agenda for the world until the year 2030. And many of us are looking to see how we can evolve our economies from being a linear economy where what we do is take, make, and dispose, to a more circular economy where we make, we use, and we recycle. So those are some of the things that are on the horizon and that are causing those opportunities to develop. But transitioning to a sustainable economy is important for several reasons. First of all, there's the creation of new spheres of economic opportunity. As you move to the development of a green and a blue economy, then new spheres of economic opportunity present themselves. Also, it will catalyze more balanced and enduring growth. We've seen growth that is sporadic. Sometimes you see growth that looks good and then rapidly we see a deceleration, but we have not seen balanced and enduring growth in our region. The moving towards a more circular economy, developing the green and the blue economy, have that promise of being able to catalyze more balanced and enduring growth. On the environmental end, we should see a reduced emissions of greenhouse gases. Those are those gases like carbon dioxide and methane that are causing global warming and this climate crisis. I don't like to refer to it as climate change anymore, because climate change gives you the impression that we still have time. Change is gradual. We are in the middle of a full-blown climate crisis, and we really have to take steps immediately to reduce emissions of greenhouse gases. This moving towards a circular economy, developing the green and the blue economy will help us do that. help us to protect our biodiversity and preserve our ecosystems, which are so important for the quality of life that we experience here in our communities, in our countries, and on our planet, and also to help to reduce pollution. There are also social benefits, community education and empowerment. That's one of the good things about the green and blue economy. They're very empowering. They don't concentrate action in the normal areas of economic activity. There's a lot more social equity and inclusivity, and they also lead to improved health and wellness. So really the thrust of why I was asked to speak to you today, what are those opportunities that the blue and green economy present to us in the Caribbean? Well, first of all, let's see what we talked about when we speak of the blue economy. And the blue economy really speaks to the sustainable use of ocean resources for economic growth, jobs, and social and financial inclusion, with a focus on preservation and restoration of the health of our ocean ecosystems and the services they provide. Ocean-based sectors are estimated to contribute $1.5 trillion to the global economy. That's quite a significant amount of money. But when you combine the ocean and the coastal services, they produce $3 trillion per year in economic output, which is equivalent to 5% of global GDP. So that's no small figure. That's quite a significant figure. Marine fisheries, directly or indirectly, employ more than 200 million people. Again, quite a significant number. And more than 3 billion people directly depend on marine and coastal biodiversity for their livelihoods. And the same number of people depend on the oceans as their primary source of protein, including me. I don't eat meat, so the only source of protein I have is fish and seafood products. So it shows you just how important this blue economy is. We just discovering the blue economy as consultants, but the blue economy has been around and has been sustaining livelihoods, and people have been earning a living, particularly in our island systems, off this blue economy for a very, very long time. So what really are those opportunities in the blue economy? And I'll go through them and just point out some of them because we don't have a lot of time to go into detail, but at least to whet your appetite to see what are some of these consulting opportunities and entrepreneurial opportunities in the blue economy. Sustainable fisheries and aquaculture. That's a big area that is developing now even more. Eco-friendly fishing to ensure that the fishing that we do does not deplete the resource quicker than it's being replenished. People who live in Barbados can attest to that. Barbados used to be the land of flying fish. Barbados' national dish is flying fish and cuckoo. When last you went to Barbados and was able to get flying fish? Because one, the oceans have become a little bit warmer, so that has changed the migration pattern, but also we have not probably engaged in the type of sustainable, eco-friendly fishing as we should have, and that resource has depleted. Aquaculture farming, another very important area, as we seek to produce high-value products that are required, not just by people like me, but also this growing tourism industry that we have in every single one of our islands. People come to the Caribbean expecting to get a surplus of seafood. Sometimes we can't get that seafood from our marine space. We may have to produce it in aquaculture spaces and seafood processing and marketing. But there are additional opportunities. Development of fisheries management plans. Again, talking about the sustainability of the resource. You must have fisheries management plans that ensure that you're managing that fisheries resource, that you're not, again, taking out from that fisheries ecosystem faster than you're able to replenish it. And that is an area that has to be high up on our agenda. Providing advice to governments on sustainable fishing practices and also managing the data. We are not very good in our region on data management. We're not, unfortunately, an evidence-based culture. We don't have that tendency to depend on evidence. We believe that because we're small islands, we're small populations, we know what's going on in every nook and cranny, but we don't. And the only way we can test that the interventions that we are making are having the effect is by measuring and by observing and by analyzing. So really, management of data is a big issue, particularly in the blue and green economy. And that is something that, again, setting up those data systems, setting up those management systems for information is very important. And design, implementation, and management of sustainable aquaculture products. But there's also marine renewable energy. Renewable energy is a big issue for all of us because with the exception of Trinidad and Tobago, Guyana, and Suriname that have natural sources of oil and gas, the rest of the Caribbean does not. So we have to depend on importing fossil fuel. In my country, 1 kilowatt hour of electricity costs 40 US cents. In Trinidad and Tobago, that same kilowatt hour of electricity costs 4 cents. So nothing that I do in St. Lucia as a business that requires an input of energy, and almost everything requires an input of energy, can ever compete with Trinidad and Tobago because of that high cost of energy. So moving away from using fossil fuels to using the abundance of sunlight and wind that is at our disposal makes economic sense for us. And marine renewable energy is one of those avenues that presents itself. Offshore wind energy, tidal energy, wave energy, and something called ocean thermal energy conversion, where you use the difference in the temperature of our oceans. At the surface, the oceans are very warm. As you go deeper and deeper, the oceans become colder. So you use that gradient of temperature to power energy. That's what is called ocean thermal energy conversion. And this has particular prospects for small island developing states like ours. The unfortunate thing is that the technology has not been developed to the point where it is yet cost effective. But we believe that ocean thermal energy conversion has the potential to do for the economies of our islands what fracking did for the United States of America. So, all the more reason why there should be more research and innovation done in that area to help to completely transform our economies. But there are also other opportunities, feasibility studies for all of those marine renewable energy opportunities, conduct of environmental and social impact assessments. Anytime we do any of these projects, we have to ensure that the impact on the environment and the impact on social systems is not too high. So the conduct of ESI is very important. And project management for marine RE projects, renewable energy projects, is also an opportunity. One that I think we don't pay sufficient attention to, is marine biotechnology. We are sitting on a treasure trove of marine resources that can allow for the development of pharmaceuticals, cosmetics and nutraceuticals, biofuels from algae. Every year, there are research vessels in our waters from the United States, from North America, some of them from as far as Europe, collecting information to see what is on our ocean floor. We don't know what they're doing, but the next good pharmaceutical, the next excellent product to help you have clear skin or remove acne can be coming from our oceans, and we don't even know anything about that. So again, there's a need to protect that resource, ensure that we protect that property, the intellectual property, but also that we do the research ourselves before it is exploited by someone else. And I'll come to that in a while. Coastal and marine tourism, ecotourism, marine tours and recreational activities, sustainable resort management, those are all, again, opportunities. But also marine conservation and restoration, coral reef restoration. As I said, there's a lot of impact on our coral reefs. We're in the middle of a major coral bleaching event. Our coral reefs are so important for our fishery, for our tourism industry. People come to the Caribbean and they want to go diving so that they can see Nemo in colorful reefs. If we don't take care of those reefs, then that resource will no longer be there, and we will no longer have that beautiful abundance of fishery, fishes that we would normally get there, but also that beautiful seascape that we're renowned for. Mangrove and seagrass conservation, and also marine protected areas and management. Ocean technology, marine data collection and analysis, development of marine technology and instruments, and also geographic information system and remote sensing for marine environments. Those are all opportunities using ocean technology that, again, are ripe for our foray into, particularly our young people who are now studying those areas, and these present opportunities for them. Maritime transport, green shipping technologies. The shipping industry is a major contributor to global greenhouse gases. It has a big carbon footprint. How do we make shipping greener? How do we cause those ships maybe to use green hydrogen as opposed to using heavy fuel oils? Many of our countries are looking into the possibility of producing green hydrogen from the excess renewable energy that they're producing. I know that is a focus for the government of Dominica. So how do we find ourselves in that space so that we can now be supplying green hydrogen or green ammonia for the ships that are plying their trade across our oceans? Sustainable ports management. How do we make our ports green so that the ships that come in don't billow these large fuel, the smoke that they put out from burning fossil fuels, but they can now plug into a power source in our ports that is powered by renewable energy. Again, these are opportunities there. Sustainable marine and dock management. Yacht waste management solutions. So many of our countries have major yachting industries. St. Lucia, the BVI, the Grenadines, so many of us, the Bahamas. How do we cause those yachts to have as minimal a carbon footprint possible? How do we use those yachts for marine environmental education and tours? And how do we use those yachts for yacht-based research and monitoring? How do we marry the tourism industry with the research and development industry? So again, those are opportunities there that I think we need to see how we exploit and think a little bit out of the box, not the normal things that we would normally talk about. So that's the blue economy. What's there in the green economy? Well, first of all, let's define the green economy. The green economy is one that results in improved human well-being and social equity, while significantly reducing environmental risks and ecological scarcities. It is low carbon, it is resource efficient, and it is socially inclusive. That's actually a definition from the United Nations Environment Program that goes way back to 2011. And again, many opportunities in the green economy. Renewable energy, that's the one that very often jumps out at you. It's the easiest one to think of. Design, installation, and management of renewable energy systems. So wind, solar, geothermal, hydro, all of these are opportunities that are being explored by our countries, by our governments, the design, installation, and management of these RE systems, providing consulting. Now, a lot of the consulting is being done by foreign firms. How do we ensure that we have a cadre of regional consultants providing that information? An organization that I am chairing right now, the Caribbean Center for Renewable Energy and Energy Efficiency, CICRE, is filling that gap, but we need a lot more consultants in that energy space, given that all of our countries have committed to decarbonizing and moving towards renewable energy. The conduct of energy audits, energy planning, bioenergy production, conduct of environmental and social impact assessments, and project management of all of these renewable energy projects that are going up all around our region. Sustainable agriculture, organic farming, agroforestry, precision agriculture, vertical and urban farming. You know, agriculture, we have a very serious food security problem in most of our member states. How do we ensure that we address this, but in a manner that, again, does not deplete resources? In St. Lucia, we had the banana industry. St. Lucia, Dominica, Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines did wonders for transforming our economy, attracting foreign exchange, but did severe damage to our environment, particularly to our watersheds. How do we ensure that the farming that we do, the agriculture that we embark on in the future, present and future, does not do similar harm to our environmental ecosystems? And again, sustainable agriculture speaks to this. Waste management and recycling. You know, going back to this issue I spoke about with plastics, waste management strategies in all of our countries, recycling and reuse programs, waste to energy solutions, very important. This one is of particular interest to me, and that's green building design and construction. We live in the Caribbean where there is sunlight for a minimum of 8 hours a day, sometimes even more, every single day of the year. We don't live in the UK, where during the winter months, the sun probably comes out, what, if you can call it sun, for 4 hours. We have an abundance of sunlight 365 days of the year. We also have cooling breezes that blow across our islands. Yet what do? We construct buildings where we are enclosed, where we must have lighting, artificial lighting all day long, and air conditioning all day long. And you end up with sick buildings, people suffering with all sorts of respiratory issues. Just yesterday, I did an address to the Civil Service Association in St. Lucia, speaking on this issue, the impact on indoor air quality from the way in which we construct buildings in the Caribbean. So ensuring that our buildings, commercial, tourism, and also our residential buildings are built differently and are built in a manner that allows us to take advantage of the beautiful ambient environment in which we live. You could swear that we're living in the UK, I mean, with the way we build buildings. Environmental consulting, so environmental impact assessments, sustainability management, but something that has emerged, ESG, particularly in the financial sector. How do we ensure that companies keep to strict ESG, environmental, social, and governance standards? That is a big area that is developing. Sustainable tourism, I don't need to say too much more about that. I think we all know that the tourism industry in most of our islands is not sustainable. It's very extractive. So how do we cause that tourism industry that is still the bedrock of our economy to develop in a way that is ecologically friendly, that encourages community participation and engagement, and also preserves heritage? That is a big issue. Water management. Climate change is increasing our water insecurity. rainwater harvesting systems, water purification and treatment, irrigation and water conservation services, and very importantly, wastewater management. Green transportation. Many of us are moving towards the use of hybrid vehicles and electronic vehicles. How do we cause that to happen in a way that is beneficial to our economy and does not create a new class of energy poverty? How do we design sustainable public transport systems so people rely less on using their private vehicles and we have a public transport system that works? Policy development and advocacy, very important to ensure that our policymakers get the right advice. Sustainable finance solutions, the development of blue and green bonds becoming very important. Debt for nature and debt for climate swaps, carbon trading, which is now institutionalized in the Paris Agreement under Article 6. How do we find a way for us to benefit from carbon trading? And carbon trading is not something that just the big industrialized countries benefit from, but we also benefit from it. So green and sustainable finance instruments. You know, we're seeing an increased issuance of green bonds, blue bonds, social bonds, sustainability linked loans. How do we ensure that our financial sector does not miss out on this, but also our financial consultants find themselves in that space? Belize recently floated a blue bond. Many of our countries are going in that direction. Barbados also floated a blue bond to support marine conservation. Barbados has recently, with the support of the Green Climate Fund, launched the Barbados Blue Green Bank. Again, you know, opportunities there. Jamaica had a catastrophe bond. The Prime Minister of Jamaica is talking about listing green bonds on the stock market, Caribbean green bonds on the stock market. And the government of the Bahamas in, I think it was 2022, passed a carbon credit trading bill to take advantage of what it has estimated to be somewhere in the vicinity of $50 billion of carbon credits that the Bahamas is sitting on. So, you know, all of these opportunities for us, and that's because the Caribbean is a biodiversity hotspot. Our foreparents, our parents and grandparents always used to give us bush medicine, you know, whenever we had a cold or diarrhea or something, and we scoffed at it. But if you go on the shelves of Whole Foods or Holland and Barrett, Whole Foods in the US or Holland and Barrett in the UK, what do you see? The same things that our parents gave us. The same bitter melon, the same cascara sagrada, the same ginger, the same turmeric, taken, put into tablet form, capsules or chips, and we buy it for a lot more money than we would get it in the Caribbean, adding value to a product that is considered a weed, a bush in the Caribbean. How do we take advantage of it? How do we cause not just the body shop to use moringa and mango and papaya, but how do we ensure that our products get there and the consulting that would allow that to happen? And that's just speaking about the Whole Foods. Nutraceuticals is a $300 billion industry, but the Caribbean is completely absent from this. So what do we need to succeed in this? Well, first of all, we need regulatory and legislative support. We need stronger environmental protection laws to ensure that that blue and green economy that we're hoping to benefit from is not eroded by poor planning, by poor policy making, and by poor development, which we're already seeing all around us. Climate change and/or carbon market acts, like you've seen in the Bahamas, I think is another good way to go. Investment incentives. How do governments provide incentives that it would encourage investment in the blue and green economy, and standards and certification, which I'll come to in a couple of slides as we are approaching the end. Simplifying the process for establishing green and blue businesses. That's another very important enabling activity. Capacity building, training programs, strategic partnerships, technical assistance. This area is still very new for many people. How do we cause the level of capacity to develop within our Caribbean consultants that would allow them to ply their trade, not just within the Caribbean, but in the Pacific, in the Indian Ocean, in all of the small island developing states, but also in the industrialized countries that are moving in that direction. I think we are perfectly placed to provide that sort of consulting because that is the life that we live. Access to finance, grants, subsidies, and low interest loans. I'm very encouraged by the work that CDB is doing. We also have to get our financial institutions to start thinking in that direction. The development of public-private partnerships. Protection of intellectual property, extremely important in this area because you are developing new products. And, you know, we have to ensure that our intellectual property is protected, again, which is something that we do not do enough of in the Caribbean. Promoting the development of local and regional markets for green, blue products and services. We have to create that market for green blue products and services within our own Caribbean ecosystem? How do we cause that market to develop? How do we work with organizations like Caribbean Export and the CARICOM Development Fund and others to cause that market to develop? And governments can play their part by promoting and sourcing green blue products and services as part of their procurement. Government is a massive procurement agency in every single one of our countries. They can help stimulate this by making a decision that they would purchase a certain percentage and growing over time of their products from green and blue products and services. Supporting research and innovation, extremely important. We can't develop the green and blue economy if we're not constantly doing research, constantly innovating. You know, we have people in my country, St. Lucia, there's a young man who developed a solar power desalinator that is treating the brine in such a manner that when it's discharged back into the ocean, it is not as harmful as the ordinary brine. That has to be encouraged. There's another young man who's taken sargassum seaweed and converted it into a fertilizer that is extremely useful and very, very good in the agricultural sector, marrying the blue economy, sargassum seaweed, with the green economy, fertilizer to use on farms. How do we cause that level of research and innovation and encourage it so that our young people see an opportunity there for them, and then we monetize those ideas when they are developed? And finally, developing a blue-green taxonomy, because there's a lot of greenwashing that is taking place. A lot of people are passing things off as green or as blue when they're not. So how do we develop that taxonomy for us in the Caribbean so we can define what identifies as green economy, what identifies as blue economy, and then we benefit from it? You know, we've all made this decision to move towards a circular economy, or we should be. If we haven't, we should have made that decision. And that is something I think, you know, is the final stimulus for developing, because you can't have a circular economy if you don't manage your natural resources much better than we're doing right now. And managing our natural resources speaks to managing the blue and green economy. And as was said earlier, we just concluded the 4th International SIDS meeting in Antigua and Barbuda that adopted the Antigua and Barbuda agenda for SIDS. That there is the blueprint for the development of the blue and green economy. How do we operationalize this? How do we ensure that it gets the resources that it requires? But also, how do we use this now as our blueprint as small island developing states to ensure that we capitalize from it and that we make it happen? Because when we do, then our economies benefit, our environment benefits, our people benefit, and we also benefit because of the opportunities that are provided. Ladies and gentlemen, those of you who've never been to St. Lucia, this is what we look like. So I'm always putting a pitch for my people in the tourism industry. It's the #1 honeymoon and wedding destination. So those of you who are not yet married, come to St. Lucia to get married. If you want to renew your vows, come to St. Lucia to do it. Thank you very much. And again, happy International Consultants Day. Thank you.
Amazing. Oh my goodness. You should have seen the chat blowing up. Dr. Fletcher, with all the kudos. What an amazing presentation. It is very knowledgeable. Your slides were crisp and beautiful and engaging. And the level of content that you have provided for us is really mind-blowing. You should have seen the chat. Can you take one question at least?
I can.
We have a question that was posed early from Zena Collins, and she said, can you speak about the Caribbean seaweed industry and the opportunities available and the lessons we can learn from Asia?
Oh, sorry. Well, I'm not quite, I don't know what's happening in Asia. So I can't really speak to the lessons we can learn from Asia. But I do know that there are people who are doing quite a bit of work with sargassum, using that sargassum and turning it into products. And, you know, I don't understand why we have not made a bigger deal out of this, because sargassum is a problem. It's a crisis. It is an issue for all of us. And it is a resource that is replenishing itself to our chagrin, because the more we take sargassum out, the more sargassum comes in. So if you have people who can take that sargassum and turn it into an economic product that everyone wants, then we should be providing financial, technical, whatever resources they need to make this happen, because they are doing us a service. They're doing the tourism industry a service, but they're also doing people who live in those areas a service, because this thing, it's smelly, it's messy, it's affecting our fisheries. So I believe our governments need to look at the economic opportunities that sargassum provides, and not just see sargassum as a problem. Yes, it's a problem, but it's a problem that is soluble. So how do we solve that problem? And that's why Joanne Ndujo and what he's done with Algas Organics, I really would like you to go and have a look at what this gentleman has done, because it is a model for how we take a crisis and we turn it into an opportunity.
Thank you so very much. Dr. Claudius Prevel, who is one of our CMC members, he is saying Ceremis is actually doing some research in that area. A number of persons have been asking, will we have access to this presentation, Dr.?
I'll share a PDF of it with you. I will.
Okay, because what we do in CIMC is that we take these presentations and we create a package that we put on YouTube that's available to our participants. We can't say thank you enough. There are no words at all in the English dictionary to express our gratitude and appreciation and love for you, Dr. Fletcher. We know you have to run because you have this big project with the youths going on, and we would just love to wish you blessings, success, prosperity, good health, happiness, and above all, inner peace in abundance today and always, Dr. Fletcher.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to be here with you, and I really hope, I'm really sorry I can't stay with you for the rest. But as you said, you spoke of IRI. I have something called Youth IRI, Youth Innovators for Renewable and Inclusive Energy, where we bring together 45 young people from across the Caribbean here in St. Lucia for the next 4 days to discuss climate change, climate justice, and sustainable energy. So I need to run off to them, otherwise they are going to start doing things in my absence. So
thank you, and be safe. And we would love to say thanks to all of you participants in the chat who have been saying excellent presentation. And we are very, very, very grateful for your engagement in this conference and also for your comments. Thank you so very much.